will we do with the drunken
Drunken
sailor?
sailor,
What will we do with the drunken
drunken
sailor? What
sailor,
will we do with the drunken
leaving
sailor?
so early
It's like
in
early in the morning or
early in,
rise in the morning.
early in the
I don't
morning.
remember the
I think it's
early in the
early in the
morning.
morning.
Great. Early in the morning. I forgot the last line. I'm doing great, ladies and gentlemen. What's poppin', y'all? Welcome to Post Finale. I am your host, Ankit Madhira. I'm an actor and a musician who hasn't seen a lot of films, so to keep my friends happy and potentially provide a new perspective on some popular films, I'm on a quest to change that. I'm never on this quest alone, however. Once again, I am joined by teacher and director and my friend Adam Deer. Adam, how are you doing?
Hey, Ankit. Yeah, great, mate. Good to be back for round two.
Yeah.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Looking forward to it. Before we jump into round two, I'm putting you on the spot here because I have not told you about this question. But I know you're usually, behind the scenes and directing. But if you were to play a character in this movie, who would you want to play?
Ooh, that is a good question. I'm gonna try and avoid being Truman because I just feel that that's just too easy to say. Yeah, the lead character. I think it'd be fun to play his dad
Okay.
in some way, but I don't know. I feel like I know that sound might be a bit weird, but yeah, I think that would be fun just to play this kind of homeless, this guy who was an actor and then just lost the plot. uh, that might be
Fair
fun.
enough.
Yeah, or his wife.
Nice.
I don't know, or Truman's
Or his
wife. I'm
wife.
not sure.
Truman's
Yeah,
wife. I think that you would be a fantastic wife for Truman. Let's
thanks,
put it
mate.
this
I
way.
appreciate that.
You can't be worse than Meryl. Like,
Mm,
she was terrible at her job. You can't be worse than
yeah,
that. So, like, the bar's already really low, but I have faith that you would be a fantastic wife for Truman.
I really
So,
appreciate that. I'll
yeah, yeah,
know
yeah.
that down and tell people in future that you said that.
Yeah, for sure. By all means, look, this is about to be plastered on the internet. People are going to be able to find it at some point in
Yeah,
time if they're ever curious. These
yeah,
words were said. But where we left off, Truman just had it out with Meryl. Pretty much Meryl's leaving, and Marlon has explained that, hey, Truman, like, you kind of started spiraling and all of this after you thought you saw your dad. Turns out it was his dad. And we're back in the real world with a TV presenter. So this is someone else not in Truman's world. And we learned that his name is Mike Michelson. Did they run out of names? Like, is that all you could figure out? You literally just used the same name twice and just extended it the second time. But he's the host of True Talk. I'm not sure how effective this show is supposed to be and how often it comes on if all you're talking about is the Truman Show.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think you could probably do a weekly show.
Fair. If it was weekly, I would understand it. But I don't know. It felt like it was more than weekly. And I was like,
Yeah,
okay, this seems a bit excessive. Like, you're already watching this person for 24 hours, and now you want to talk about someone else. Like, I don't know. It's weird.
yeah.
I
I'm
don't
trying to think how
understand
they
it.
did it with like how Big Brother does it. Can't remember if that's like every day but then the Big Brother doesn't last forever, so it's a bit of
That
a
is
different
true.
thing,
I don't
So yeah,
really know how Big Brother works because I've never seen an episode of Big Brother. I have a general idea of what's going on, but
you're not really
don't.
missing out on much. Sorry to all the Big Brother fans out there, but yeah, it's not really.
Yeah,
You
I
just
do
watch
watch
people do dumb
television.
stuff. Yeah,
I watch television. Sometimes I watch reality television. Just Big Brother has never piqued my interest, even. Like, I've just never been curious on what goes on there. But
yeah, fair enough.
we learn that this show, True Talk, is a forum for issues growing out of the show. And tonight they have something very special. It's an interview with the show's creator. And so they are heading to the Lunar Room. And they are live on the 221st floor of the Omnicam Ecosphere, where we will find the world's greatest televisionary. It's the designer and the architect of the world within a world, and we are, of course, talking about Christoph. And Christoph's just chilling in the moon, looking down on Sea Haven like Zeus is looking down on Olympus. Or not, he's on Olympus looking down onto Earth from Olympus. That's what I meant. And I also like how he just has like one name, like Cher or Beyonce. Like, it's just, this is Christoph. Like, he's so big. I was like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's true. I
And
mean, he's just this. I always think about his backstory. I'm just like, who the heck is this guy? Where did he get? How did he get in this position? Where did he get his money from? Yeah, was it? Yeah, like how did he get this thing going?
who were the executives that were like, okay, like, we're gonna do this? Like, you seem like you have a really good idea. That's what I really want to know, is who were the executives that said it's okay to just do this to a human being? Like,
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, but we've done some pretty weird things. So
we have done some very weird things in this world,
yeah,
and welcome to the world, ladies and gentlemen. You live in it.
yeah,
So Mike's thanks Christoph for being there, and then says that the catalyst for the recent dramatic events that have happened on the Truman Show is that Truman's father, Kirk, has attempted to infiltrate the show. This is, I think, the first time that we learned that his name is Kirk. My immediate brain went to Captain Kirk. He has beamed down from the space. Or wherever he is. I don't fully know Star Trek, so sorry to any of the Star Trek fans out there. I know a little bit, but not a ton. So
and he's on a boat, so he is Captain Kirk at one point.
exactly, he is Captain Kirk at one point if he wants to be. But
Mm.
before we get into that, he points out that this isn't the first time that someone has tried to reach Truman from the outside, and Christoph confirms this, says that they've had multiple close calls in the past, and we then proceed to see like a little barrage of like people doing this, and we see a guy jump out of a Christmas present. Like, just logistically on a TV show, how do you not know what is in the present when it's delivered to the house? Do you not vet what the presents are?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they just kind of not screen these presents. I suppose it's the early days of it. I mean, he's still a boy at that point, but you would have thought they've had a while to figure this kind of stuff out. And
But like, he's
what's in
still
this
a boy,
giant
but
box? Yeah.
he's definitely like at least like 4 to 6 when this
Mm.
is happening. And it's just like, I feel like that's just standard protocol if anyone sends anything to a film set. And like, I haven't been on that many. I would love to be on more. But even what I've understood, like, if something is sent to a film set, it's usually at least like scanned to make sure that it's not something harmful. Like,
Oh, I
it
mean,
might not be
exactly. Yeah.
opened, but it's scanned. At least this is my understanding. If I'm mistaken, then I might be mistaken, but I don't know. This was my thought. Especially like in this show, it feels like they should know what they're giving Truman. They already like, you know, do this for everything else. Why would you not just know what you're putting in a box to give to Truman? Like,
I kind of,
you've
yeah,
controlled every other aspect of his life.
that's true. Yeah. I do think that perhaps it's someone who's on the inside, has set it all up and they're like, yeah, I've got the presents ready,
Oh,
and
that
they've,
is
they've
fair.
kind of just, shoved a guy in there.
They're like, let's see what happens.
I don't
But
know,
the
because
mom like
sometimes it
just
can get, if you're at that point where they trust you and you're like, I've got the present sorted. Yep, this is the present, blah, blah, blah. But someone's paying
they
you.
don't
So
trust you
maybe that
anymore.
way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Pardon?
They don't. That man or woman does not have a job anymore. That
Yes.
person
Yep.
doesn't have a job.
They're
But
fired.
I did enjoy that the mom just grabs little Truman and like runs away while the dad tries to like tackle the guy that's inside the
Yeah.
box.
I mean, it's all really
We then
funny and yeah.
That's fantastic. We also see someone that paraglides down to try to warn Truman. How did he get into the dome? Like, that's my
That's the one
question. Like,
I like the paragliding one. That was
right.
awesome.
So, just in case like any of the listeners haven't like fully processed, and like, you probably have because you're intelligent people, but he has entered the dome, climbed up to a high point to then paraglide down to see Truman instead of, I don't know, just trying to walk up to Truman casually and not draw attention to himself.
I don't know. I mean, maybe that was just the best way to. Yeah, because yeah, we'd have to break in and then get really high.
get really high and then go down. Like it.
Unless he just got in from the dome and that's where he has to paraglide from. Like,
Oh, like maybe he infiltrated at the
yeah,
top. Yeah, he
I don't know.
climbed the outskirts of the wall. Yeah, I don't
And
know.
just went through.
Maybe I personally would like to think that he got in and then just climbed up really high to then do this dramatic thing because he was like,
Yeah,
I know I'm gonna get knocked out, but now people will never forget who I was.
yeah.
So
He just climbed on top of a school or something and jumped off.
yeah, it wasn't an actual paraglide or anything.
Yeah. But I
So
wonder if in the writers' rooms they're all discussing this. I can imagine that are the people in the room going, so how the hell does he get in there? Whether they bother figuring it out or not, whether just like, who cares? He just paraglides in. I don't know.
I definitely can imagine that they're in the writing room and like the writers are just all going through it. And as we discussed in the last episode, like it used to be apparently like a lot darker and like a lot of cuts were made and things like that. But I 100% have faith that I would like to think someone was just sitting there. How does he get in? Someone else. I don't know, but it's funny and we have the
Yeah.
budget to make it happen. And they're like, all right, good enough, moving on. Like
Yeah.
that was the discussion. Just
Yeah.
I haven't thought about this, but like, let's go. Who's really gonna notice me 30 years later? Or I don't know,
Yeah.
whenever this film came out. I don't actually know when this film came out.
This
Late
was
90s.
98.
So
Yeah.
yeah. Like 26 years later. I'm the one that's noticing it. I'm sure other people have probably noticed it before too.
Yeah.
So we then see that nothing compares to the most recent breach of security. And it's a former cast member and a dead one at that. And I'm like, wow, harsh. So Christoph realized that since Kirk started this crisis in Truman's life, he is the only one that can end it. So, I mean, fair enough. But why would Kirk agree to come back to the show? Did he want the job again? Like, what kind of is the situation? This is what is kind of going through my head as well. Like, did he actually want to come back, or why did he come back? I don't know. Right. So we see Kirk's yelling at young Truman to stop climbing up the rocks. Says that it's off limits. Truman asks what's over there, and Kirk's just like, nothing, it's dangerous. And I'm just like, no, it's just the edge of the dome that they haven't finished building yet. Like, you're just gonna see tech people. And then, Mike, who can't buy a last name, Mike is just like, all right, like, hey, why was the dad written off? Because, really, it's for us as the audience to understand why the dad was written off. And potentially like people in the audience in the real world of the Truman Show, where like they might not have been old enough to remember why he was written off. But I mean, it is a fair question. Like, it's been now probably like close to 20 plus years that Kirk hasn't been around in the show. So I mean, it's understandable. But Christoph reveals that as Truman grew up, they had to manufacture ways to keep him on the island so he wouldn't leave the island. And we then see a fun shot of Truman, who I would say he's like middle school age, like maybe 10 to 13 roughly. And he's like, I want to be an explorer like Magellan. And the teacher says, well, that's too late. Everything has been explored.
Yeah.
First of
I
all,
like that one. Oh no, I'm
fantastic
sorry.
response.
Everything's already been discovered. Yeah.
Right? It's like, oops, sorry. But then also at the same time, it's just like, no, it hasn't.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, you get frustrated as an audience member because you start to much more feel for Truman in that,
yeah,
it's just all his dreams are just kind of slowly been shut down so that he doesn't really have any hopes or dreams. It's just, this is it and this is all I have and this is what it's going to be.
exactly. And I really started feeling bad at the next one, which is, he wanted to cross a bridge and then there was just this dog that was barking to stop him. And I was like, well, I mean, that kind of sucks. First of all, like, you've now instilled the fear of dogs into this person. And then, as a cynical human being, you've given the neighbor a dog. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
why?
Yeah.
Why would you do that? Like, I just processed that. Oh my god. Like, they gave Pluto to the neighbor. even though that they instilled a fear of dogs into Truman.
And he jumps,
Why?
and he's a jumping dog as well.
Dude,
You know,
but
he always
like,
jumps up
why?
at him. Yeah. But I guess when you're
Why?
looking at it from, if you look at it from a director's producing perspective, you can see that they're just trying to infuse conflict wherever they can, and some drama, uh, but while still keeping him on that island. So I suppose they're just thinking, yeah, I mean, maybe just Kristoff's just a prick. I've been, you know, to some degree he is, and he's just like, oh, this will be funny. What if we have a dog living next door and he's really afraid of dogs?
Right?
Worse, they could have
Like,
put him on a really tiny island. I guess that would have been with a dog
with a dog.
and
Just
his
straighten
wife.
him with a dog. And also, like, I love dogs, so, like, this just makes me sad because I really
Yeah,
like
yeah.
dogs.
I got a
But,
dog under the table right now.
aw,
Just like,
adorable. I do not. I have nothing
why
under
don't you
the
have a dog
table.
under your table, you weirdo?
I'm sorry. My dog passed away a few years ago. I mean, I was still in college at the time, so this was 2018, 2019. So like it's been a few years since he passed away. But then my parents decided no more dogs. We'll happily
Yeah,
dog sit, but we're not raising any more dogs. So like, you know, fair credit to them. But, like
yeah,
I'm
it's quite a bit of work. It is a big commitment.
yeah, and
But
I
yeah,
don't live here, so it's not like
yeah,
I would be able to. For anyone listening, I am currently at home at my parents' place visiting, and when we're recording this, so hence why the setup looks a bit different than potentially somewhat normally. But yeah, um, yeah, no dog, no dog in London either. But you know that's a
yeah,
different issue that we'll get to. Anyway, Kristoff's a prick for putting a dog next door. And eventually, Kristoff came up with this idea to get rid of Kirk, and he came up with the idea of Kirk's drowning. And Mike points out that it was very effective since Truman is afraid of water ever since. Again, Kristoff's a prick. We are established. I mean, I always thought that, but like, definitely this interview is just establishing that more. Um, but then also on the flip side, Mike has a very fair point. Kristoff saw a problem. He fixed the problem with good effectiveness. So like, you can't get mad at him for problem solving skills. You can get mad at him for like humanitarian things, but not problem solving skills.
yeah. Yeah, I mean,
So
be a very stressful job. I mean, when you said it's on the 200th and something floor of that, uh, whatever it is,
yeah, it
station,
was the
it must be massive.
212th floor, and they were in the lunar room. So pretty much like they were in the moon. So
I just wonder how many staff they have, how many people live there. You know, it'd be a massive commitment for a job, but
I
I'm
mean,
sure you get paid really well and get great perks.
I would hope so. I mean,
Free
Marlon
Truman
seems to,
merchandise.
yeah, you know, because that's what you really want when you work at the
I want a
Truman
big
Show.
Truman necklace.
Okay, with Jim Carrey's face or it just saying Truman?
I don't know, either maybe all the above or just one that's got a big T on it
Okay.
and then his head or something like
Ah,
that.
beautiful. What if it's a lot of like little faces that then like get put together to make the T?
Yeah. Ah, okay. Or it's just
Yeah, yeah.
little faces going around in a necklace. And then
Oh, see,
and then
I feel like that
and then
would
just
potentially hurt, but like if you had like a lot of like different expressions potentially, and like that's what made up the T, and
yeah.
then just like a nice little like coil. Oh no, here we go. You have little faces that make up the T, different expressions, but then you have little dogs going around as the necklace.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
some boats or the ocean like waves.
yeah. Just different things of why Truman can't actually get off the island, and then just Truman. There we go. See,
And then
marketing
yeah,
ideas.
and now
25 years later.
and then just a tramp stamp that says Truman.
Oh, of course, that's a given, as one does.
We've already
So
done that, so
yeah. Listeners, that's up on the Patreon if you want to find out what. So anyway, Kirk was obviously disappointed when he read the synopsis of this Drowned at Sea episode, And Christoph believes that that may have led him to break back onto the set. And Mike's like, okay, sure, but how are you going to explain the 22-year absence? Very good question, Mike. That makes so much sense of why? How is he going to explain this? And Christoph didn't miss a beat and just goes, amnesia. What? How does that explain anything? He got hit in the head, forgot who he was, and then just one day remembered? I'm not an expert on amnesia by any means, but I don't think that's how it works.
Well, what it does for me is it reinforces this idea that it's this really soap opera show. And so as I guess for an audience member, they're just it's like not even the most extreme thing you've ever heard come out of Days of Our Lives or something like that, where some of the stories I've heard are just so weird. So I imagine that this isn't that big of a leap. He's like, oh, it's just amnesia, and this is all he knows. So he's like, oh, yeah, right. But yeah, as an audience, we're like, seriously? Anyone buying this crap? But everyone's just so enamored with the show and Christoph that they're like, wow, every idea he has is just the most amazing thing we've ever heard. Amnesia, wow, I never would have thought of that.
I feel like you could have come up with so many better things. Even just simply I got washed away and then I was on a piece of driftwood. I survived at sea for years, ended up in this random country, had to get nursed back to health, which took another 7 years. There you go.
Yeah.
Already significantly more interesting than amnesia.
Or yeah, he got trapped on an island and then ended up getting married and having heaps of kids, and then he decided to come back and he swam all the way.
I've got it.
Okay.
Kirk is Tom Hanks in Castaway.
That's it. Boom.
There we go.
Kirk is Wilson. Come to life.
Kirk is Wilson. Oh.
He got drifted out to sea.
Wilson deserves better than Kirk.
And his consciousness, Wilson's consciousness, and Kirk's consciousness combined to be a father.
Now I just feel bad for Wilson. Wilson's
that's
fantastic.
Crazy how emotional that scene is.
Oh yeah, that is such a good scene in Castaway. See, listeners, I do watch films sometimes.
We know you've seen one other film. we know you've seen Truman Show and Castaway. That's it.
Castaway. That is the guaranteed of what Ankit has seen. And other shows that have been on this podcast, including Barbie Fairytopia. So, this has been witnessed. So, anyway, now that somehow Kirk and Wilson have been infused together, we are taking some viewers' phone calls. And the first phone call is from Charlotte, North Carolina. And a man asks how many cameras they have in that town. Christoph says somewhere in the vicinity of 5,000. Honestly, that's just impressive. As Ankit, that's impressive. That the editors know which camera to go to, and the showrunners know which camera to go to at any given moment to hit a beautiful shot. That is just impressive. That you have 5,000 cameras. And I think slightly more impressive is that it's 5,000 working cameras, seemingly. That's more impressive than just the sheer number. It's the fact that they work.
And how high your voice went, that was impressive as well.
Oh, thank you.
Impressive range. But no, you're absolutely right. You're definitely right. I mean, there's all of those cameras are on, recording, ready at any given moment to just jump to.
And I'm sure that, if you have a general idea of where Truman is, you might put a camera on standby because you're okay, we don't necessarily need the camera in the pencil holder at his office to be running before he gets to the office. But so like I'm sure that there's some type of system, but I mean the
You
fact
have to
that
make choices,
yeah,
make distinct choices where they're going to be.
and you see that a bit later, and we'll definitely get to it. So, but Christoph then says, "You have to remember, we started with just one." We learn that he was curious at birth. He was premature by 2 weeks. We see a baby that looks less like an actual baby and more like a rubber doll. Like, there are no eyes on this baby. There's no mouth, no features of a face at all on this image of a baby. And for anyone listening to the audio and not looking at the video, baby was 100% in air quotes.
I don't remember that bit actually. Noticing that, but yeah, well, the laws with babies and things on sets are pretty intense. So I think it's a crazy amount. It's like they're allowed on for 12 minutes at a time, or it's a really weird number for babies, like how
Yeah.
long they can be. They can be. So half the time they just don't bother, trying to get a baby.
That is fair. And I mean, it's the same thing with child actors as well. Like, there are a lot of rules, and the rules do change based on age. So I think that was a big reason, like in Modern Family, you see seasons 1 and 2, the baby that was used for like Lily in season 1 and 2, a lot of times what people do when they need babies is they get twins.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So that like they can still film, but then one baby can be there while the other baby has a break. So then it's like, like, okay, sometimes because it's, they can only be on for this amount of time, and like, they need feeding, they need to be taken care of because they're a baby. There are a lot of regulations, as you were saying, but I do know that a lot of times they seem to try to get twins to play babies just so that they can do that switch pretty easily. So, I don't know. I'm not on the producing side. This is just stuff that I learned through reading.
No twins were available, I guess.
No twins were available. So we do find out more about how Truman was the one. So what we learn is that he was one of 5 potentially unwanted babies. And so it wasn't always going to be him, but his actual mom didn't want him. And so Truman arrived early, which was on cue for the show's air date. And so Truman was the baby that was selected. Okay, sure. Makes sense of how he was selected. It wasn't just like, all right, it's just going to be him. Truman's the first child to have been legally adopted by a corporation, which I'm not sure how that works, but impressive, I guess? Sure. The show has apparently created a lot of revenue, which does not surprise me. It has been on the air for 30 years almost, and it has equaled the gross annual product of a small country. And Christoph says that people forget that it takes the population of an entire country to keep the show running. So what we were saying earlier is in fact true. It does take quite a bit to keep this show running. And since there are no ads, it makes all of its money from product placement. So everything on the show is for sale, the clothes that are worn, the food that's eaten, to the very homes that they live in. Everything is available in the Truman catalog. Operator standing by. I love that they're just like, operator standing by. Like, that's fantastic. I don't even know if operators are still really a thing in 2024 now as we record this. I guess Happy New Year to everybody. This is coming out significantly later than the New Year, but we're recording this about a week into the New Year. So,
well, they'll have, there's those commercials you can still ring up and, they have those deals for like, slice it, dice it, that kind of thing. They do have that still.
You just don't see the infomercials as much anymore.
Yeah.
Like, they're just not as common. Don't get me wrong, I loved them growing up. Like, they were always hilarious. Fantastic. I think one of the last ones that I've seen that was recent was like the Flex Seal and the Flex Tape and all of that stuff. So, I think that was one of the last ones that like I had like consistently seen in terms
Did you
of.
get any? Did you get some tape?
I mean, I didn't get that tape. I got other tape, but I mean, who knows? Maybe that's the tape that I need to solve the problems.
Yeah.
It apparently solves everything else according to those infomercials.
Well, it worked. I mean, I guess you remembered it, and now you're
Uh,
sharing it with all your listeners. So,
oh, right. I'm sorry. No free product placement. Moving on. So,
yeah, I'm
Mike
sponsored by tape.
asks, I'm not sponsored by anybody. I would like to be. Hey, sponsors, hit us up. So, Mike asks why Truman hasn't come close to discovering the true nature of his world until now. And Christoph says that we accept the reality of the world with which we are presented. It is as simple as that. He has a very valid point. It makes complete sense. We are now connected to The Hague, which, first of all, beautiful city. I was there in August of last year, fleetingly, but I was there and it was gorgeous, fantastic place. And then the call drops, and I was like, oh, let me guess, you couldn't, for some reason, get a Dutch actor or someone to do a Dutch accent voiceover. Like, that's all you needed. You just needed a voice actor, but okay, fine, I guess. So, The Hague, sorry, we don't get to hear you speak, and so we are now at Hollywood, California. There's a lady on the phone, and I immediately go, I'm guessing this is going to be Sylvia. And then the lady on the phone calls Christoph a liar, a manipulator, and what you've done to Truman is sick. Do they not vet the calls before they come in? It's the same situation with the Christmas presents. Like, do you not ask what they're going to, like, say? I mean, granted, she probably lied to, like, get through. But still!
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe they're not getting that many calls. They're just trying to present as though they're getting all these calls. But yeah, I suppose you're right. But I think, as he says, like, I feel she's called him before, and he knew who she was quite quickly. So maybe
Yeah.
she's got plenty of tricks up her sleeve.
I mean,
Not
Christoph,
Mysterio.
yeah, like you said, Christoph recognizes her voice immediately. And Mike tries to say, you know what, let's go to another call. And Christoph's is like, no, this is okay. He would love to reminisce with former cast members. Christoph speaks to her and says, because you batted your eyes at Truman once, you flirted with him, stole a few minutes of airtime with him, thrust yourself and your politics into the limelight, that you know him, that you know what's right for him. You really think you're... And then he just continues, you really think you're in a position to judge him. Sylvia retorts, saying, what right do you have to take a baby and turn his life into some kind of mockery? Don't you ever feel guilty? This is where I started to get, like, confused, and I was like, is Sylvia potentially somehow related to Truman? Because if she is, that kiss is really messed up, but it might also explain why she feels so strongly about this, but maybe I'm just reading too much into this. I'm not completely sure.
I don't think they're related or anything.
Right, but these are the thoughts that are going through my head. I don't think they're related. Like, legitimately,
Maybe they're
I
actually
wrote down...
twins.
Yeah, maybe she was one of the other 4 babies.
Yeah,
Oof.
she was one of the other 4 babies. That's it. I like that.
Yeah. There we go. She was one of the other 4 babies. We have figured out why she cares so much. She has learned. It could have been her, and she was like, "This isn't okay."
Sylvia, the Sylvia Show.
It could have been called the Sylvia Show, although I feel like they would have come up with a more catchy name. Not that Sylvia isn't an absolutely beautiful name. It just doesn't have the same ring as the Truman Show. Yeah. It doesn't roll off the tongue as quickly.
Shaniqua Show.
The Shaniqua Show, yeah, because that definitely rolls off the tongue a lot easier than Sylvia. Yeah. All right, cool. So Christoph says that he has given Truman a chance to lead a normal life. And I'm like, no, you haven't. You have dictated everything that is supposed to happen to him, including his fear of dogs, which then you cynical monster put a dog next door, his fear of water once you drowned his dad. Like, you are messed up. Like, no, you haven't let him lead a normal life. That's not fair. Anyway, he's like, the world is a sick place. Sea Haven is the way the world should be. And I was like, he has a god complex. I mean, like, it was a given, but like, this is just really slapping it in your face. Like, hey, if you haven't figured this out yet, like I hadn't, he has a god complex.
Yeah, and I mean he's got, his name is Christ off.
How did I not put that together?
Well, I mean I don't remember when I noticed it. You've noticed lots of things that I haven't picked up on. But yeah, there is that. I'm guessing that's why they put it in there. I don't know. And a Christ off is a catwalk battle between Christ and
someone
else. I don't know.
Someone else.
A Christ off. But but the fact that is there, I think is his image that he is godlike and god complex, and I mean he lives on a manufactured planet, staring down at another world.
That is true. He does live in the moon, so
yeah,
it's kind of messed up.
I
Christoph
want to know
says
if he's
that
ever
he
been
could.
around Sea Haven. Like, when was the last time he walked around there? Has he ever been there?
I don't know if he has ever actually been in the town. It would be weird. I feel like we would have known if he did, but maybe he did in the very, very early days before Truman could put together anything.
Yeah.
Maybe,
when he was little.
Yeah. But definitely not recently. So Christoph says that he could leave at any time after Sylvie claims that Truman isn't a performer, he's a prisoner. So, Christoph's like, look, if his goal was more than an ambition and he was truly determined to discover the truth, he could leave. And I was like, you literally tried to stop him just now. Like, he can't leave. You stop him whenever he tries to. But Christoph says that what ultimately distresses her is that Truman prefers his cell, as she calls it. I hate Christoph, but this is a fantastic performance. Like, just recognize that the actor has pulled together a fantastic performance. So, like, definitely,
he's great.
Props to him.
Yeah, he had no prep time, and he's done. It's very good.
Very good. I mean, just to be clear of what we're saying, the actor probably had prep time. We're saying Christoph didn't have prep time for this interview. So, Sylvia...
Because from my memory, I think he was really late casting. Like a couple of days or something. Like, really crazy.
It's very possible. I mean, look, Ed Harris is a fantastic actor. I mean, the only thing that I can tell you off the top of my head that I know that he's in is National Treasure 2. Fantastic in that. I'm sure he's been in a lot of other things
of his career. Yeah.
But yeah, I was 1 when this film came out, so I don't know much about it in terms of like casting and stuff like that. But it's very possible that he was cast very last minute.
Yeah, I just have this feeling that I read somewhere that he was cast last minute, but he had a few days or something. But someone could check that out, put it in the comments, and say exactly how many days and hours and minutes and seconds that Ed Harris had to prepare for this role.
Yeah, I mean, look, if anyone knows Ed Harris, ask him personally and let us know. I know I would love to find out. Anyway, Sylvia says he's wrong. Says that Truman will prove you wrong, and then hangs up in anger. And I'm like, okay, cool. That was a very good explanation in terms of just like character building. Very well done. In terms of actual like moving the plot forward, didn't really do much. So Mike says that aside from some heated comments from the minority, it's been an overwhelming positive experience. And I was like, well, the world is a messed up place, so that tracks. And Christoph says that it has been both for Truman and the viewing public a positive experience. Mike thanks him for his time, and now, Truman's back to his old self. We can look forward to new developments. Christoph reveals that Meryl will be leaving Truman and a new romantic interest will be introduced. And I was like, thank God Meryl's out of the film. again, as an actress, she did great. But as Meryl, I hated her.
Yeah.
So, like, well done to the actress who was Laura Linney. Fantastic job. She nailed it. She did great. But Meryl, so glad she's gone. So we do see that Sylvia is longing for Truman, and this just confirmed my thing of, yeah, I read way too much into this. She was not Truman's sister or, sibling, but again, she was probably one of those 4 babies that was just not included because they weren't born on time. That's what
That's what
we've
we've
decided.
decided. Yeah.
That's what we've decided. I don't know if it's canon or not, but it's canon now. So we hear longing piano music. We see a man asleep in the tub. He has a table for the tub, a pillow for his head. Like, he has thought about this. There's some big green floating ball thing. And he also has, like, bread and some, like, green gooey ball things that end up, like, near his feet at the tub. And I was just like, okay, so this man has obviously thought through this entire setup. But he hasn't thought through the thing of, like, how to reach the bread. It's a very ineffective place just to be able to get to the bread very easily.
Yeah, if you're going to bother putting the bread there, you need to think this through, buddy. How are you going to reach the bread? Yeah.
Like, he has to now lift his table to get to the bread. It's a lot. Like, I'm impressed on his setup. I'm just saying that, like, I probably have to give it, like, a 7 out of 10 instead of a 10 out of 10 because, like, there are just some minor inconveniences that you haven't
Maybe
thought
he's
about.
got one of those claw things, you can reach out and pick things up.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Then maybe that's
what
just
he
down
has.
by the side and he pulls that out and grabs the bread.
Yeah.
We
And
just
it's
can't see
definitely
it.
waterproof so that it doesn't electrocute him while he's sitting in the
Yeah,
tub.
well, just one of those plastic things.
Yeah,
Like those
problem
little
solved.
claws. Yeah.
Yeah. There we go. So, on the big screen, Truman's sleeping. Christoph walks up to the big screen where he's asleep and looks at Truman lovingly, touches his nose, and I was just like, great back acting by Ed Harris. Like, we all knew what was happening, but we didn't have to see his face at all. Just a fantastic job by Ed Harris there. Just bringing that in. Like, it's significantly harder to do than I think a lot of people recognize when you don't have facial expressions and it's all just physical body movement. So just, I wanted to point that out. It's a 5-second clip, maybe 10-second clip, but a very, very well done clip. So
And those are chosen well because at the end of the film we get another example of that, but from Jim Carrey.
yeah,
And so it's also very confident directing, trusting your actors, but as well that they can do those performances and sell it without needing to see their face. But yeah,
exactly.
good point.
Yeah. So I made another prediction here after this interview. And I was like, okay, this is how the film is going to end. This new love interest is going to somehow be in cahoots with Sylvia. And so this new love interest is going to show up. And she and Kirk are going to help Truman. And together they are going to get him out of Sea Haven. And there will not be the first on-screen conception to happen. But I think this new love interest and Kirk are going to be the way that Truman gets out of Sea Haven. This is what I think is happening. I think I figured it out. I finally have understood how he's getting out of here. So we're back to the next morning. Listeners, I'm very sorry, but I've lost track of what day it is. So we see the sunrise over some houses, and there's a wind sail of a dolphin, and either like it's skewed because of like depth perception, or that is one massive dolphin on top of that house.
Yes.
Like, it is huge. And I like animals and I like dolphins, but like, wow.
At what point are they too big? Yeah.
Right? Like, I feel like that's just calling. It's like a beacon. It's just like, I live here. So Truman is awake. He gets himself ready and he stares right into the camera, which is his mirror. The tech guys at first seem a little worried because they're like, oh no, he knows. But then it's just Truman playing Major Burbank, and he starts drawing a circle in the mirror with the soap. He makes himself an astronaut alien helmet. I don't really know what to call it, but they call it an unusual cat, which kind of confused me, but I was like, okay, like, sure, I would have called it alien or an astronaut or something. But Truman proceeds to claim this planet as Trumania of Burbank Galaxy. And again, Truman, you have a significantly better imagination than to come up with Trumania and the Burbank Galaxy. Like, you could do a lot more. So, this one's just on you as Truman, not even Jim Carrey. I'm just like, I just wanted more. I wanted more creativity, but fine. He's been through a traumatic event, I guess.
I have a feeling that I think he came up with that. That was him ad-libbing too. I think just that little bit. So, but maybe it fits Truman, but it's not necessarily creative, but it fits the character.
Oh, it 100% fits the character. I just had more faith that he could do something slightly funnier, but it still fit the character. Yeah. But I mean, like, it was still good. I still giggled. I just was like, beautiful.
But also, when you were watching it, did you have a moment when you thought maybe this is a moment he's gonna say that he knows what's going on, or did you think he was just doing something else?
Like during this soaping when he's mirror
at the mirror, and he's like, I think he says, I know who you are, or something, or
yeah, he says something along those lines. I don't think that he was talking to like the tech people.
No, but I mean, when you were first watching it, were you thinking that's what's happening?
No, because I don't think he would have outed himself. So I didn't have that thought, because I was like, all right, Truman's going to break out of here. But again, like, I'm thinking that other people are going to help him break out, because I don't think Truman would out himself, because he understands at this point that they are trying to keep him in here. So I think Truman wouldn't out himself like that. So that thought never crossed my mind, because if he had found out and he had outed himself, then it would have been a problem for him to then escape. So, yeah. But we see Truman. He's back to his cheery old self, and he walks out the door and he's like, good morning, good afternoon, and if I don't see you, good night, or something along those lines. I have slightly forgotten how it goes. I have remembered it now. It's good morning, and if I don't see you, good afternoon and good night. That's what it is. So we then see different people. Was that the guy from the Karate Kid 2 and the Asian family who was learning English by watching the TV show?
I don't know.
Hold on. We're going back to the IMDb page. We're going to see if I can
which
find
character from the
It was so in the second Karate Kid, did you ever watch the second one?
Yeah, I've seen all the Karate Kids.
Okay, Tenzin? Tenzin's in Avatar. The villain in the second one, when he goes to Okinawa, what is that character's name? Yeah. He comes back in Cobra Kai as well, and has a fairly big part as well. What is his name? Oh, I feel terrible. I should know this character's name. See, I have watched films. I'm just bad at names. All right, let's see. Chosen.
That's his name, Chosen.
Yeah, the character's name. The actor's name is Yuji Okumoto. I am very sorry if I have mispronounced that. But
that was the name I was going to say, so.
Okay. Very nice. No. We don't need to. We let the listeners think that you had this all planned out from the beginning. I am trying to find. I was right. It is him in the Truman Show, but he just makes a little 2-second appearance.
Now I can see his face. Yeah.
Right, and it flashed on the screen, and I was like, wait a minute. Also, listeners, sorry if you keep seeing me with a handkerchief on the video. I'm getting over a cold, so
you know what, Ankit? It is absolutely disgusting. And
I'm so sorry.
Very disappointed.
We try to cut out as many as we can, but sometimes it's hard. I'm sorry I had a cold.
All good.
So, anyway, so we do see that. Okay, I was right. And Spencer, the neighbor, gets to talk for once. He's still taking out the trash. I love the bit. I love that he's always taking out the trash. And Truman gets stopped by the twins again from the beginning of the film. And now he's pushed up against a Carlton Homes, the Colonial Homes sign instead of Kaiser Chicken. And the twins decide that, hey, we're going to take that deal and that they will come next week to sign the paperwork. And I'm like, all right, cool. Like, all of this is happening. It just seems like Truman's back on his normal day. Truman is now saying it isn't about insurance. It's about when death will occur. It's a week. It could be a month. It could be a year. And I was like, oh, you're selling life insurance. Okay, sure. Like, we always knew that he was in insurance and trying to sell insurance and had a boring desk job, but we never knew what type of insurance. It's life insurance. Not that it changes anything, just interesting. So they introduced Vivian, who is now going to be Truman's neighbor and the new love interest. And I was like, oh, here she is, the lady that's going to help break Truman out of Sea Haven. Let's go. I can't wait. And he's on a phone with the person, and the person on the phone is like, I'll take it, or something along those lines, because Truman's very surprised. He's like, oh, right, okay, like, let me take down your details. But I also think it's because Truman knows that what he's doing is fake. Like, Truman knows that everything is fake, so he wasn't ready for this. And, then we have a 2-second clip where we see the lawn being mowed by an elk rotary mower, product placement, and Truman is cutting it in a really weird way, that's all I could tell. He was just cutting it in a weird way. Oh, we moved on. And,
Because then the wife, Meryl says, you missed a spot.
yeah.
And that's
And he's
interesting
like,
later when you kind of figure it out. Because it's like that circle spot of grass.
And I didn't know what it was, but like I noticed that it was the circle spot, and I was like, why is he cutting it that way? And that was my whole thought at this point. So, meanwhile, the guys at the tech are doing their job, and Christoph walks in and asks what Truman is doing in the basement. He's apparently moved down there after Meryl packed up and left. And I was like, finally, she's gone! We knew that she was gone, but listeners, in case it hasn't been clear, I didn't like her. So, Christoph asks why he wasn't told, and the beard guy, I don't know his name, so I'm just going to call him the beard guy until I figure out his name.
Where's the beard guy? I know the actor's Paul Giamatti. I don't know the character.
Yeah, the actor is Paul Giamatti, but I blanked on the actor's name as well while I was watching this, and so I was just like, great.
Given a name. I mean, I don't know that he is, but it's just
I think he is slightly later. So currently he's the beard guy, and he's just like, he's asleep. Like, what else is there to tell you? And it's not a very good shot of him sleeping, and he was cleaning up his garbage and everything.
And he's snoring.
So Christoph, and they're snoring, and you can see that he's asleep in bed. Christoph says, okay, like, can we see the clock cam? And the beard guy's like, no, the clock cam has been obstructed. And I was like, oh, come on, Truman, be planning something, Truman. You can do this. So this is where I'm at. I'm like, I think he's on the run. I think he's figured something out. Like, I kind of put together that something was going on. I wasn't sure what. So halfway through, Truman gave up cleaning and he fell asleep. So they checked the setup for the insurance convention, and that's what they're checking on. And Christoph looks out the lunar window at the moon, which doesn't make sense because I thought he lived in the moon, but I don't know. Maybe it's like a circular moon, and like I haven't put this place is massive, and it's like the only other structure on Earth that can be seen from space other than the Great Wall of China that is human made. Like, this place is huge, so I have given up on trying to understand it. So he then sees something. I'm not sure what, but he looks worried and tells them to isolate the audio and asks for a close-up of his torso. And this is where we start hearing the snoring a bit more. And Kristoff tells Chloe to call him and say it's a wrong number. And I was like, he isn't there! Yes! And they call, and Scully is back. I don't know his name, but I know the actor is also the same person that plays Scully in Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah, he's a security
So
guard. Yeah, watching it. Yeah.
I thought he was a security guard. Steven, who was the last guest, pointed out that he is like working in like a mechanic shop or something.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not completely sure what he does. But he's in the film, and I've named him Scully because I don't think the character ever gets a name. And
He's had that
he's the
haircut
only
his whole career as well. Like, no character changes. Every character he
no.
plays looks like that. So
It's just
he's
he's got
Scully.
his look. He has nailed it, and he has had a successful career. So like, good for him. So he's back. Well, they're calling Truman. Nobody knows what's going on, and they look at a close up and see that he's tapping on the box. And I was like, okay, what exactly did you see under the table? Because Kristoff has picked up something, some type of movement under a table or something, and he freaks out. Kristoff is going berserk, and the beard man is very confused. And Kristoff tells them, get Marlon over there right now. So Marlon speeds over, rushes in with beer, as usual. I like that he is consistent. And he goes to the basement, but Truman isn't there. Instead, it's a snowman and a squeak toy. And I was like, how in 5,000 cameras has he managed to avoid every single one of them? Like, you're telling me the people who have been running this show for 30 years are so bad at their job that they don't put together that, he's not there, and that you don't pick up movement
Truman
on
is
any of
actually
these
a
other
genius.
cameras?
He's a genius.
I mean, yeah, but we knew that. I'm
Yeah.
calling the other people out on. I'm calling the showrunners out on this. Truman, amazing work. So Kristoff tells Marlon to find him, keep him in the room. And Marlon's doing a great job. He's keeping it light. He makes it seem like it's all a game, kind of like it's all planned. And he checks the closet behind Truman, but there's a ladder and a tunnel that leads outside. And this is where what you were saying with that circular patch of grass, that's why he was mowing it in such a weird way, because that's what you climbed out of. So he climbs out. Marlon realizes this. He looks straight in the camera and then just says, he's gone. And they cut transmission. Everyone's surprised. People are gasping, dropping like their saucers of tea and whatnot. And it's just like, okay, one, this seems excessive. But two, I do understand it's the first time that they've been off the air in like 30 years. So, makes
It's been an impressive
sense.
run. It's been an impressive run.
It's been an impressive run. I mean, like, two old ladies wake up and everyone is freaking out because there are these technical difficulties. And everybody is looking for him. Prop cars are all accounted for. He has the most recognizable face. And someone's like, he can't disappear. And I was like, but what if he's wearing a disguise? Truman is a genius. He has figured this out. So before we figure out if he's wearing a disguise or how in the world he's breaking out of this place, I don't have much confidence in my prediction that people helped him, but I'm still holding out hope because we don't know. We don't know how he's gone yet. So I'm still holding out hope, but I don't have a lot of confidence in it. But we're going to take a quick intermission, and then we'll come back and we'll finish out the film, figure out how Truman is escaping this lovely, lovely world. Hello everyone and welcome to the intermission. I'm so sorry for the delay in getting this episode out to you, but thank you all so much for understanding that we just needed an extra day to get this edit out to you. So thank you all very much for that understanding. Now, that being said, if you are in the London area, I have some exciting news for you. If you are listening to this when it comes out, then if you are living in the London area and are free on February 4th or February 5th, Stephen and I will both be involved in a scratch night where we are testing new pieces of theater. There are 7 new pieces. Each piece has about a 10 to 12 minute scene being performed from it. I am performing in one of the scenes and Stephen has directed one of the scenes. So
if that sounds of interest to you and you want to see some live theater, come on through. It's at the Drayton Arms Theatre in London, and there's a pub downstairs as well. So come on through. Link will be in the description. If you want to gain access to bonus content and support the show monetarily and support the channel monetarily, it is greatly appreciated, and you can do so by heading over to patreon.com/coopforge, and the link will also be in the description. And if you're typing it in, coopforge is CO_OPFORGE, just as it is on most things that we use. Now, if you would like to gain access to bonus content, you can head there, and you get bonus content not just for this show on Post Finale, but you get bonus content for stuff that we work on for Flip the Scripts and for Seattle Across the Pond. So if you haven't already checked out the other two shows, we have two other shows here on Co-op Forge, and they are Flip the Scripts, which is all about adaptations, and it is co-hosted with the previous guest of Post Finale, Stephen Nyman, and it's a fun time. Currently, we are finishing up going through the Percy Jackson movies. We have finished those, and if you are listening to this when it comes out, the next episode and the final episode of us going through the Percy Jackson series is coming out tomorrow, and then we will be getting on with the Hunger Games, so be sure to tune in to Flip the Scripts to hear all about that. And if you like sports, then I host another show with my friend called Seattle Across the Pond. So it is called Seattle Across the Pond, and it is hosted with my friend Eric Imperio, and Eric and I have been friends for multiple years, meeting back when we were both in school in Portland. But it's a fun time. That one is every 2 weeks. We talk about all things Seattle sports. So whatever is happening in the professional sports world in Seattle, we try to keep you up to date on that, and we're following some fun storylines as well. So be sure to tune in to either of those shows, and it really does help. And if you would like to support the show in a non-monetary way, you can do so just by following us on social media at Post Finale Pod on all the platforms except for TikTok, and at Co-op Forge, CO_OPFORGE, on all the platforms, including TikTok. So be sure to check us out there. I post some fun reels from time to time, and I'm working on getting some more content up for you all. But be sure to talk about us on social media, share it with a friend, leave a rating or review, hit that subscribe button if you're on YouTube. It really, really does help more than you know. And thank you to everyone who has done this in the past. Thank you to everyone who will do this in the future. It really does help us out a lot. And thank you so much. And that's enough of me chatting away. Let's get back to the episode.
So, we're back. The moon has now turned into a spotlight. The sirens are running. People are walking in huge lines to search for Truman. Spencer is telling Pluto to hunt him. Pluto is going ecstatic. While all of this is happening, I had a thought. Why are they all walking arm in arm? Just seems very ineffective if you're trying to find somebody.
Well, it's something I know that happens if you're out in the woods or something, or in a field, so that you don't miss anything. But they're just walking down a road. I mean, if you can't see him on the road, you're a moron. So I don't know what they're trying to figure out.
Exactly. I understand if it's in the woods or something because it could be so fast, but it's not even they're in big fields or anything like that. They're literally just walking down the main street. I don't understand. And the mom is just like, oh, all of this fuss. If he could just hear my voice. And I was like, yeah, he'd probably run away. And then the dad is like, well, let me try. And is like, Truman, nothing. And I was like, oh, okay. This is where I really have lost hope that Truman's actually getting help from people and that my prediction is just truly wrong. Here we go. Chuck that onto the list of things I've gotten wrong. Most things. So Marlon says that he knows they are almost done with the square, still no luck, and he says, all right, like, let's go back to Barrymore. He must be over there. Not sure what Barrymore is. And, I don't think we ever really find out. But Simeon says, Barrymore, huh? And this is, I think, who the Beard Man is. So I'm going to call the Beard Man Simeon from now on.
So, okay, yeah, fair enough. Sounds good.
Just, because I think they named him. So Simeon seems confused, but Marlon isn't sure who'd be watching the college, but is told to send someone over there. So I'm guessing Barrymore might have been the name of the college. Nobody seems to know what is going on. And Kristoff says they need more light. And Will is just like, we're never going to find them this way. And Kristoff says, okay, what time is it? And Chloe's like, no, it's way too early for that. And I was like, sunrise? I mean, what do they have to lose at this point? Like, just turn on the sunrise. You've already gone off the air. Like, what difference is it going to make? Kristoff has the same thought. So they cue the sun. Everyone on set is very confused. And one of the producers or, like, executives or someone comes in and is like, what is happening? Like, everyone is, like, freaking out in the real world. There's a rumor saying that he's dead. The media is having a feeding frenzy over this. All the phone lines are jammed. Every network has pirated shots of Marlon making an ass of himself in front of the camera. And I'm like, okay, look. Marlon held it together better than anybody else did this entire time. I will not take any slander to his name. What else did you want him to do?
Yeah, I think he did really well. I mean, he wasn't freaking out like flipping Meryl was. So, yeah, he kept it together, yeah.
He kept it together, and then he had to tell them, like, he's gone. Like, sure, maybe he could have been like, I don't know where he is. But honestly, like, everyone would have put it together because the real world people are not idiots. Someone would have processed, hey, he probably left. So, apparently sponsors are threatening to rip up contracts. Kristoff says, why? We're getting higher ratings with this graphic than they have ever with this show. Here's the graphic that is happening. Also, this is sad that they're having higher ratings with this graphic than at any point in the show. That's just a slightly depressing fact, but it makes sense. First time the show's been off the air for 30 years, understood of why it is going to have massive ratings. So, the graphic is Truman's face in multiple colors, and it says, The Truman Show, live to the world, 24 hours a day. And scrolling underneath, it says, technical fault, please stand by. Fair enough. Very simple, perfect graphic. So, Marlon is back. He says that there's no sign of him. Simeon tells Marlon to go back to town, join the others. Everyone else is in first position. So everyone's at first position. Everyone's frozen as it's almost time. And that's when Kristoff realizes something. He says, we're not watching the sea. And Simeon asks why they would be watching the sea. And I was like, because he's conquered his fear. Now that Dad is back, there is no need to be scared anymore. Go, Truman! Again, I had given up hope that, like, my prediction was right. So at this point, I was just on board. I was like, great. I'm like, let's go. I have figured it out. So they pull up cameras from across the harbor. And Kristoff notices him on a sailboat and tells them to resume transition. So, fantastic. Some bimbo in the tech team goes, how can he sail? He's in insurance. And I was like, people can have this beautiful thing called hobbies.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like he walked, how could he walk around? He has insurance. Yeah, well, I mean,
right? Like, people have hobbies. I have them. I'm sure you have them. Out of curiosity, what is one of your hobbies? Like,
one of my hobbies. Well, I do like to read a bit, but I've kind of gone off a little bit. I do a bit of running and things like that. But yeah, I used to read a lot more. I was really getting into Stephen King, weirdly enough. Not something I really grew up with, but yeah, it was good fun. What about you?
Nice.
What about your hobbies?
One of my hobbies, which I used to do a lot, and I really want to get back into it, is playing a lot of tennis. So I grew up and I played a lot of tennis, but I just don't have that many friends in London who play tennis. So listeners, if any of you know where I can find people who play tennis in
I
London,
know. I
let me know.
actually do know someone who's like heavily involved in tennis, who lives in
We will
London.
chat after this.
Yeah. I won't give you their name now, but yeah, I'll mention it.
Yeah, undisclosed human being.
Yeah.
We can text.
Very drunk
So
at it.
yeah.
No,
Lovely.
I'm kidding.
Hey! They're healthy enough to play tennis. They're
Each
doing
their
well.
own.
So
If you can do your job, fine.
as long as you are not a detriment to society, do
Yeah.
what you enjoy and whatever your hobbies may be, but don't bring other people down with your hobbies. Just my 2 cents. Like, yeah. Anyway, moving on from hobbies. So some people with a brain ask, wait, isn't he afraid of water? And I was like, great, much more valid question. Just like, okay, like I may have missed something, but like, wasn't this the case? Fair. They resume transmission. Everyone is glued to the TV. And I mean, like, fair, I would be too if I lived in this world of this messed up world. So one guy at a diner starts taking bets, and he's like, 2-1 odds, he doesn't make it. I just appreciate the guy who's like, I am going to profit off of this.
Yeah.
Like, fair play, man. Scully and his partner just tell the guy to leave the keys in the car, which makes me think that they do work in a mechanic shop. And Truman is out on the sailboat. They go to the cabin cam for their hero shot. And might I just say, it truly is a hero shot. Like, it looks beautiful. Like, Jim Carrey has the wind in his hair, and he's like just, sailing that boat, looking all beautiful and sexy. And,
completely
great
naked,
job by Christoph.
covered in oil.
No.
That was the weirdest bit for me. Very surprising.
I was surprised too, but we were here for it. It was the hero shot.
I just went with it.
He knew. He knew that he was going to be on camera and that they were going to find him eventually.
Yeah.
So he was prepared. So Sylvia's also watching, and she sees that he has a picture of her that he has made, and she starts crying. She's like, oh my God, this is lovely. Not actually. Like, she doesn't say anything, but she starts crying. Yeah. And he is sailing on the Santa Maria. I don't know why that is important. I just noticed the name of the boat. So they try to get another boat moving, and the poor bus driver is like, I'm a bus driver. And the tech guy at the bottom, like, that's on the ground, is just like, they can't drive the boat. And Christoph's like, why not? Well, they're actors, which, one, fair. Like, yeah, fair. But two, I've driven a boat before. It's not that difficult if you can figure out how to turn it on. The majority of what makes steering a boat more difficult is when you're in the actual ocean and you need to worry about this beautiful thing called sea life, reefs, and waves. But they can control the weather here, so, like, you don't need to worry about any of that. So, like, really, the actors just couldn't figure out how to turn on the boat.
Well, there must be, and also at some point, he's gone down there and you can see people getting on the boat and going somewhere. Exactly. It could just always be docked, I imagine. Because he has the same issue with the bus earlier on when he was trying to leave and, when he was trying to get
I think that one was like a specific, they kind of told him like, hey, stall out the bus.
I just assumed that guy really wanted to help him, but he didn't know how to drive the bus. That was my takeaway, but I don't know. Anyway.
I don't know. I did think that he wanted to help him, but that he wasn't allowed to because of his job, right? And so I do think that out of many of the actors that are on the set that are mainly extras, I think the bus driver had one of the most, he had a lot of compassion towards Truman. He felt bad for Truman, but then also like that actor was like, look, I might have a family. I don't know what his situation was, but like maybe he had a family he had to take care of. This job help pay for that and help take care of that family. So like he couldn't put that job in jeopardy kind of deal. So, but definitely I did like the bus driver. Him and Marlon were two people that like I enjoyed throughout the entire film. I think all the actors did a great job in the film, but as characters, I really felt the compassion coming from those two characters. So we then have the producers going, well, how do we stop him? And solemnly, Kristoff seems to give Simeon a signal. And I was like, are they going to bring in a storm and kill him? I'd hate for them to do that. This doesn't seem like a good way to end this movie. Like, wow, this has taken a turn. I was kind of right. Simeon calls the weather program and tells them they want to localize a storm over the boat. Chloe points out that there is no rescue boat. He won't know what he's doing. And I was like, thank you, Chloe, trying to save your star of your show. Only one that seems to have a brain anymore. Kristoff says, he'll turn back. He'll be too afraid. Don't think he will, Kristoff. I think he's given up. I think he wants to break free. Remember how you said you wouldn't stop him? You're stopping him. You are lying. I paused and went on a rant for a little bit, and then I hit play again. But so now the storm has hit, and Truman is trying his best to keep things going forward, but the storm is a doozy, and it's hitting him with lightning and everything, and Truman falls overboard. He falls off the Santa Maria, and one of the producers says the whole world is watching. We can't let him die in front of a live audience. I don't know why my producer kind of sounds like a smoker who has smoked like one too many packs of cigarettes, but this is the voice that we were now doing for some reason. This is not the voice of the character on the film, but hello, this is the voice of the producer now. So, Kristoff says he was born in front of a live audience, and I was like, well, he has a point. And I was like, this is just a fantastic scene, very well written, very well acted, where you can see and hear that Kristoff has a lot of care for Truman. He truly does love Truman. He has raised him his entire life. But you can also see that artistic devil side starting to come out.
Yeah, true. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's constantly held in tension between the making a great show and his care for Truman.
Yeah. So definitely the case, but we shall see. So Truman starts swimming back to the boat. He makes it. He holds on. Kristoff is watching intently, and so is everyone else in the world. But everyone else in the real world is cheering on Truman, and I'm like, yes, at least there's some hope for humanity. It's not all lost. So Truman hoists himself back onto the boat. Kristoff walks away. And I think this is when he has realized what he has said earlier has come true, that there's now not really much that he can do to stop Truman from leaving Sea Haven. It's no longer an ambition for Truman. Like, he truly, truly wants to escape. And Truman yells, "Is that the best you can do?" I've learned something in watching films. Never ask this question. Because it only gets worse. I've never seen a situation where a character has said, "Is this the best you can do?" And then things are like, yeah, that was the best we could do.
Yeah, it was kind of like silence.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, Truman says that they are going to have to kill him. And then he starts singing "What Shall We Do with the Drunken Sailor?" And do you know that song?
Yeah, no, I've heard it before, yeah.
Okay. Fantastic song. I mean, obviously you've heard it, you've seen the film. But for anyone that's listening, the way that it goes, it just goes, "What will we do with the drunken sailor? What will we do with the drunken sailor? What will we do with the drunken sailor?" It's like early in the morning or rise in the morning.
Early in the morning.
I don't remember the...
I think
early in the morning. Great. Early in the morning. I forgot the last line. I'm doing great, ladies and gentlemen. So
I might be wrong. That's how I hear it.
Great. So it ends with, "What will you do with the drunken sailor early in the morning?" If we have the wrong lyric, tell us in the comments and berate us in the comments. But yeah, we think that's right. Honestly, if we have the wrong lyric, we deserve the slander. So anyway, the producer's back, and he's like, the only one that talks. So, he's just like, "We should cease transmission on behalf of the studios." And Kristoff ignores this. And he's like, "No, keep running." And Kristoff is starting to lose it. And he's like, "Increase the wind. capsize him. Trying everything. And Chloe's just like, he's very close. And I'm like, thank you, Chloe. Thank you for pointing out somewhat obviousness. And Truman has now tied himself to the boat so that he doesn't get thrown overboard again. And Simeon is like, well, he'll drown. And Kristoff doesn't care. So Simeon refuses to capsize the boat. Let's go, Simeon. Having a heart. Thank you. Just, hey, maybe we shouldn't kill someone on live television. Seems like a good course of thumb. Just don't kill people. I feel like that's also like a good like life choice. Just don't murder people.
Yeah,
So
that's how I start every
you know.
day. I say that to myself. Just don't kill anyone. It's very difficult.
Hey, you work with actors. I'm sure that there are multiple times that you have wanted to strangle somebody, but you can't, and you don't, which makes you a lovely human being. But there are times in everyone's life someone annoys you enough to where you're like, I wish I could do this to you, but I also know that as a good human being, I shouldn't. So he has refused to capsize the boat. Kristoff does it himself, and Truman braces for the big waves. He hits one after another. Eventually, the boat capsizes, and as Truman is drowning, Kristoff has come to the realization of what he has done, and what he has done is wrong, and says, okay, this is enough. They stop the storm, and Truman is still alive on the boat, but obviously very worn down. Great job by Jim Carrey in this moment, because, not just in this moment, but throughout the film, but this scene in particular, I wanted to point out, because, it is difficult to play near death and then keep going. But, he's doing it very well, having that will to keep living while you're on the verge of death. And also, we have to keep in mind, it's not like he's doing this immediately after he's been submerged. And also, when he's submerged, it's done by a stunt double. Many of the times, that's probably not Jim Carrey being actually tossed around in the water and in the waves. That is probably a stunt double who deserves all the credit in the world for doing that. They put their lives on the line for some amazing stunts and stunt work. But, you're probably just getting that shot, Jim Carrey's just sprawled out on that boat, and that's the shot that we're starting with. And he does a very good job of just playing that near-death experience. So, wanted to shout out that. Something that
No,
just...
it's great. I mean, when you're acting on your own, you're not... Yeah, obviously you don't have another actor to react to. You need to imagine and react to the scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And, he does very well. It's very well.
He does. So he manages to get back onto the boat. And he is sailing. And he makes it to the edge of the dome where the boat crashes into the wall. Truman goes up the wall, touches it, tries to break through the wall. This isn't going very well. And we have an instrumental which starts to build. And Truman can't break through the wall. He starts to cry. But he doesn't give up. He starts to walk along the edge of the dome until he gets to some stairs. He heads up the stairs, and Kristoff says he wants to talk to him. And Truman sees an exit. He pushes the door open. And then for the first time, at least in the film, I'm assuming for the first time in his life, Kristoff speaks directly to Truman, telling him he can speak. It's okay. Truman is obviously startled by this and tells him to speak and that he can hear him. Truman asks, "Who are you?" Kristoff explains that he's the creator of the TV show that gives hope and joy and inspiration to millions. And Truman asks, "Who am I?" And Kristoff responds, "You are the star." Truman asks if anything was real. Truman asks if nothing was real. And Kristoff says, "You were real. That's what made you so good to watch." Which, I've already explained why this isn't true, but fine. Truman then turns to leave, and Kristoff tells him, there is no more truth out there than there is in the world that he created for him. The same lies, the same deceit. But in this world, he has nothing to fear. He says he knows Truman better than he knows himself. I don't think so.
This is the omniscient God element that comes up in Kristoff.
Yeah.
Where he basically views himself as God and thinking in. Yeah.
Definitely. Truman says, no, you didn't. You never had a camera in my head. Kristoff says, you're afraid. That's why you can't leave. It's okay. I understand. He's been watching him his whole life. When he was born, his first step, first day of school, when he lost his first tooth. You can't
Yeah.
leave, Truman. You belong
First
here
time he
with
crapped
me.
himself. Yeah.
First time he crapped himself. He was there for all of it. Sylvia is praying to God that he can do it. Kristoff tells him to talk to him. Say something. Truman doesn't respond. And Kristoff says, say something, goddammit. You're on TV. Live to the whole world. Truman turns and says, in case I don't see ya, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. And with a beautiful smile, he smiles to everyone, he chuckles, the music builds, he gives a beautiful, elegant bow, turns, and walks out of the dome. We see Sylvia then run out of her house. Everybody watching is thrilled that he has made it out, everyone except for Kristoff, who is flabbergasted. And it ends with Scully and his partner going, okay, what else is on? Yeah, where's the TV guide?
It's such a good. I love that they put that in there because it just sums up what audiences can be like with reality TV or just entertainment in general. It's like, oh, well, that's done. What else is on? What else? Yeah, what's next? What's next?
Yeah, but also, like, I love the fact that it's like, okay, where's the TV guide? Like, we've been watching this for so long, like, we don't even know what else is
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
Like, what else is on TV? Back in the day when TV guides were a thing.
It would be good in a way if nothing of interest is on, or you just want, like people put a sport on in the background or some music. You just have the Truman Show on.
Yeah, and I mean, like, by the time that this episode releases, we have another show out on Co-op Forge, which is sports. But the whole concept there is that I miss a lot of sports living in London, and we're talking mainly about Seattle sports teams. And so it's just like, yeah, I miss a lot of sports. But then when I do watch sports, because I do really enjoy sports, I have them on in the background. I'm not like paying attention fully. Like I'm kind of paying attention, but it's on in the background. So I understand like why they would have Truman on in the background. And Christoph explains this. Like some people just leave him on just so that there's something there, some type of company, some type of like background noise. It's like it makes sense. So yeah. But that's where the film ends. And as I always do at the end of a film, I have some statistics on how it did in the world of, ratings and everything. So it has an 8.2 out of 10 on IMDb, so very well done there. A 94% on Rotten Tomatoes. It is 137 on the IMDb top 250, so very, very well done. It released in 1998 and had a budget of 60 million US dollars, and its box office was $264.1 million. So did incredible.
Is that
Overall,
global? Yeah. Or is that
yeah,
just
global. I'm not gonna lie, I use Wikipedia to tell me the budget and the box office numbers. So, thank you, Wikipedia. I like how growing up, Wikipedia was like, you can't use this because it's like unreputable. And now Wikipedia is somewhat reputable.
Well, it's okay. I don't mind using it as a starting point. So if I really,
Yeah.
really don't know something, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that can be interesting. Yeah.
Exactly. And I feel like when I'm looking at like numbers of like a budget, like I feel like those are going to be pretty okay if I look at Wikipedia. Like there's not a whole lot that you can change of like, hey, here are facts of like statistical facts that you could look up and find somewhere else as well. So, definitely there are other things that can happen. It was Evita, the Argentinian
Oh, yeah. With
dictator's wife.
Madonna. Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember in high school we had to do, and this is why like Wikipedia isn't a credible source many of the times. But I remember in high school we were writing a paper about this, and my friend and I went on there and just changed it because we could, and we changed her death to she died by falling down the stairs when in reality she died with cancer, if I remember correctly. And somebody apparently used that and stated that she died by falling down the stairs, and we were like, aha, we caught you. Like, they wrote that in their paper, and we were like, yes. I mean, I think it did get changed back, but also, like, we were 14, like, maybe. Like, yeah, 14-year-olds are gonna do things and silly things. So, anyway, back to the Truman Show. It had 69 nominations across multiple different things. It had 40 wins in total. In terms of kind of like the big nominations, it had 3 Oscar nominations, and the 3 nominations that it had, if IMDb wants to load for me. Why is it not loading?
Why, IMDb?
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Why?
So the 3 nominations for the Oscars were the Best Actor in a Supporting Role for Ed Harris, Best Director as Peter Weir. That's how I pronounce the name? Yes. Okay, lovely. And Best Writing Screenplay written directly for the screen with Andrew Niccol. I think that's how you say his name. And then in the other world of the BAFTAs, it did get multiple nominations, and it also had 3 winners. So it was nominated for Best Film. It was nominated for Best Performance by an Actor in a Supporting Role for Ed Harris. It was nominated for Best Cinematography by Peter Biziu. I want to say that's how I pronounce his name. Again, I'm not perfect on names, listeners. If anyone knows how to pronounce one of these, let me know, and I will make sure that gets in there and amend that. But it was also nominated for Best Special Effects, and that was Michael J. McAllister, Brad Coohan, Craig Barron, and Peter Chency. But then it also had 3 BAFTA winners, where it won for the award for direction, which Peter Weir won the award for direction. It also won for the best product design, so well done to Dennis Gassner. And then the last winner was, again, the best screenplay, original screenplay, with Andrew Niccol. But that's how it did in terms of, getting awards, and it was highly, highly successful, which makes sense. I've heard about this movie a lot. I think it was a great movie. Definitely there were things that, I was slightly confused about, but, we move.
Didn't he win at the Golden Globes?
Golden Globes. Let me check.
I think Jim Carrey won Best Actor at the Golden Globes. I feel it. I feel it in my waters.
Golden Globes USA. Let's see. They cleaned up at the Golden Globes. I don't normally look at the Golden Globes, but I probably should.
No one really seems to give a crap really about the Golden Globes, especially not anymore.
They did not go well the other night that they were on. For context, listeners, we are recording this on January 9th, so a couple days ago was the Golden Globes of this year, and they were interesting. So, yes, Jim Carrey did win Best Performance by an Actor in a Major Motion Picture, in Drama, and then Ed Harris also won for his Best Performance by an Actor in a Supporting Role. And then they also won Best Score at the Golden Globes. So, yeah.
The music was quite nice from memory.
The music was beautiful. I don't know what it was up against in terms of the Oscar and BAFTA nominations. Not completely sure. But I want to say, it was probably something else that was iconic that came out.
I'm trying to think, because I think Saving
Private Ryan?
Saving Private Ryan came out, I think, in 98, maybe.
Possibly. I haven't seen that film, so I don't actually know when it came out. But
I think it's 98, but that's worth watching too.
Great, I'll add it to the list. Yeah. Very different than Jim Carrey running around and being Jim Carrey a little bit. But yeah, I think it was a very, very well done film. Nobody gets shot in the Truman Show. That is true. I mean, they tried to drown somebody.
Yeah.
But yeah. But yeah, that's the film. I absolutely enjoyed it thoroughly. Do you have any final thoughts on the film before we wrap up here?
Just be aware of your surroundings. You may be in a TV show and you don't know it. So stay sharp, people. Be on the lookout.
On that
Don't trust
wonderful...
anyone. No one.
Can I trust myself?
Possibly.
Oh, okay, cool.
I mean, as Truman says, no one could see in his mind, as you said, so
That
no
is
one knows
true.
what
You
you're
didn't have a
thinking.
camera in my brain. But
Oh,
on that
Minority
wonderful
Report.
note...
You need to watch
What?
Minority Report. Sorry.
Minority Report. I think
Yeah,
I've seen that
Tom
one.
Cruise. Yeah, that's
Yes, I
pretty good.
think I have seen that one. See, I do watch films, just not ones that people expect me to have seen.
It's all about, thought crime, and that's where we're heading there, people.
Wee! Anyway, if people want to find you out in the world doing things in the land down under, as
Just
we
look out
say,
your window.
just
might
look
be
out my
there.
window. Okay. All right.
Nah.
How can people find you, Adam? How can they keep up with what you're up to?
If people could, they can check out my website, adamdeertheatre.com, or you can check out on Facebook, Reindeer Productions, but Deer is DEAR because that's my surname. What a genius idea. Well done, me. And yeah, you can check out those sites and see what I'm up to. I'm just in the process of putting on a one-act play that I wrote. So I'm called Too Stinky to Bear, which is a fun kids show. But yeah, it'd be good to hear from people. Thanks so much for having me, mate.
Of course. Thank you so much for joining. Listeners, thank you so much for listening. And until next week, when we start talking about another Barbie film, I'll catch y'all later.